Vietnam. It is one of the fastest growing economies on the planet right now, and everyone wants a piece of it. 50 years ago, it was one of the poorest countries on the earth. In 1975, the average person there made about $84 a year. Today, Vietnam is closing in on $5,000 a person, and this year it is expected to pass Thailand and become the third biggest economy in Southeast Asia. But here's the strange part. While Vietnam's factories are working harder than ever, the country's electricity use barely moved last year. In a place that builds its whole economy on factories, that doesn't add up. And once you start pulling that thread, you find a lot more that doesn't add up either. So let's start with why Vietnam got this good in the first place, because the story is really impressive. In the 1980s, Vietnam's government gave up on copying the Soviet economic model. It didn't work. GDP had barely grown in years, so they opened up the country to trade instead. It paid off fast. Vietnam's income per person quadrupled between 1990 and 2000. Then it quadrupled again between 2000 and 2010. Extreme poverty that used to affect about 1 in 7 people is now under 1 in 25. Trade is a huge part of this. Vietnam joined the group of Southeast Asian trading nations in 1995, signed a trade deal with US in 2000, and joined World Trade Organization in 2007. Today, trade equals about 170% of the entire economy, which makes Vietnam one of the most open economies in the world. Vietnam also has something most poor countries don't: a genuinely well-educated workforce. That's why global companies didn't come to Vietnam just for cheap labors. They came to build real factories, the kind that makes phones and semiconductors, not just t-shirts. And when Trump threatened Vietnam with a 46% tariff few years ago, Vietnam moved fast. Its leaders got on the phone with Washington within days and talked that number down to around 20%, low enough to keep exporting. That's the story people usually stop at. Growing fast, educated workforce, smart government, looks like a country that figured it out. Now here's where it gets complicated. Start with that electricity number. Last year Vietnam's economy grew 8%. Its electricity output grew less than 5%. In a normal factory-based economy, those two numbers move together because making things uses power. It's a sign that the growth might be coming from somewhere other than factories. Things like constructions, roads, apartments, those add to the GDP too, but they don't export anything and they don't pay for themselves right away. Someone has to lend the money to build them. That's not a bad thing by default. Roads and power grids can pay off over decades, but only if the money is spent well and paid back on time. That leads to the first real problem. Whose growth is this actually? Foreign companies make up to 3/4 of everything Vietnam exports. Samsung alone accounts for around a fifth of the country's total exports. Meanwhile, Vietnamese-owned companies actually saw their exports shrink last year. So you have got one part of the economy owned by outsiders growing fast and another part owned by locals falling behind. That split matters because when a foreign company profits in Vietnam, most of that profit doesn't stay in Vietnam. It goes to home, to Seoul or Tokyo or California. Second problem: how much made in Vietnam is actually made in Vietnam. Around 94% of what Vietnam imports isn't finished goods for people to buy. It's parts and raw materials for factories. And the single biggest source of those parts is China. In just first 5 months of the year, Vietnam imported over $92 billion worth of goods from China alone. In fact, this May, Vietnam posted largest trade deficit on record going back to 1990s because imports are now growing faster than exports. So the actual pattern looks like this. China builds the expensive parts, ships them to Vietnam, Vietnamese workers assemble them together, and the finished product gets shipped out with a made in Vietnam label. Vietnam is doing the cheapest part in someone else's supply chain, not running its own. This is also why Vietnam's tariff deal with the US comes with a catch most people miss. Vietnam's new standard rate is around 20%, but the goods that use too much Chinese parts just relabeled in Vietnam can be hit with a much higher tariff, in the range of 40%. Nobody has drawn a clean line for what counts as too many Chinese parts. That's a real risk sitting on top of every factory that depends heavily on Chinese components. Third problem: a handful of companies are basically holding up the whole stock market. Vietnam's stock market went up a little over 2% in the first half of this year. That sounds good, but most of that gain comes from only one company, Vingroup. Take Vingroup out and the market was actually down by 2.5% for that same period. On top of that, real estate and bank stocks together drive more than half of the all market movement. So the whole system just just leans on one company and two sectors. A shock to either one could shake the entire financial system. Fourth problem. A lot of this is running on borrowed money. Vietnam's total debt compared to the size of its economy sits at around 145%. That's roughly 3 times what similar countries usually carry. Credit grew by close to 19% in a single year, much of it flowing to real estate developers and to giant conglomerates building malls, apartments, and stadiums. When lending grows that much faster than real economy, bad loans start piling up quietly, usually tied to property projects that stall out. And property is often the collateral behind those very loans. So if the prices ever drop hard, banks and developers get hit at the same time. This already happened once. In 2024, a property tycoon was sentenced to death for embezzling over $12 billion from a Vietnamese bank, wiping out savings for more than 40,000 depositors. Bankers say it wasn't a one-off, but just the case that came to light. Fifth problem. The power grid genuinely can't keep up. Back in 2023, a power shortage in the northern Vietnam, where a lot of the big electronic factories sit, cost the economy an estimated $1.4 billion. Foxconn, one of Apple's biggest manufacturing partners, had to cut power usage by 30%. At some plants with only a few hours of warning. New power plants and transmission lines takes years to build, and in Vietnam, a lot of those projects are stuck waiting on financing or permits. For a country whose entire model depends on factories running non-stop, that's not a small issue. That's the playbook almost every country follows to get rich. Sell cheap labor, build factories, lose that labor once wages rise, and pass it down to whoever is cheaper next. But it's not the only way to get rich. There are at least one country that got to the top of the world's income charts without ever competing on cheap labor. To learn how they did it, watch this video next.